are the pros and cons of a thesis versus a comprehensive exam style closure?
Great. Okay, this is a really important question. This is probably one of the most important questions. Okay, a thesis is a good option for certain students under certain conditions. It is not a good option for many of our students. It is a good option for you if you have a research question in mind with a data set that you know that you can obtain and that you have a timeline and workload with your other life responsibilities that would let you finish the thesis in a reasonable amount of time. So in a terminal master's program, and I have a terminal master's before I got a PhD, you have to do a thesis or some other kind of project, maybe an exam. In many programs, it is very common for someone to take a year to write a thesis. Writing a good thesis takes tons and tons of hours of research, data collection, and analysis. And it can be done, and it is great when it works well. But what can happen if you don't have a really clearly thought out plan is you can end up working on it for like months and months and months, and it just really drags out. So if you want to write a thesis, it's really important that you just kind of are kind of ready to go. You don't want to be like, I'm thinking about it. Some people think that if they want to go on to a PhD program that they need to write a thesis. That is not true. If you are applying to PhD programs, often they will ask for a writing sample. That can be a term paper. It doesn't need to be your thesis. If you had a thesis, sure, you could submit it, but usually you'd be writing it when you're applying to PhD programs. You wouldn't have it finished anyway. So that's not necessary. So a thesis is really for certain people that think that they have basically a research they want to conduct. You have to analyze original data. That is not something that everybody is willing or ready to do at the end of their program, because you might have to do statistical analysis or other kinds of qualitative analysis. And in 502, you should be getting some of these ideas and tools. So I mean, those are definitely the things that we are doing to prepare you to write a thesis if you want to. So it is a good option for certain people. However, in my experience, and I've overseen 30 closure exams in the 7 years that I've been at UIS, which is a world record, or 30 closure projects, I should say, exercises. So of those, I think 5 have been a thesis, and maybe a couple have been a project, and then the vast majority have been exams. Exams are not less rigorous than a thesis. In fact, some of the master's theses I've overseen have been really excellent, but they've been excellent because the person had everything ready to go and they had plenty of time to just do it. Exams are no less rigorous. What they are is very similar to a process by which a person, a junior scholar, becomes an expert on a specific topic. And so because you do an independent study and you read all this information about the topic, at the end of the closure exam, you are an expert on this topic, flat out. The woman that just did her oral examination about election laws and voter turnout and elections integrity, she is an expert on it. We asked her all kinds of questions. She knows as much as practically anybody. And that's what we would hope for you when you pick your topic and then read. You're reading dozens and dozens of things about it. Maybe not everything that's ever been published, because that would be a lot on some of these topics, but you're going to read the really important stuff. And so it's like you took a master class in that topic. So the comprehensive exam is great for everybody. I would say it's great for most of our students because most of you are full-time working professionals and you want to finish in one semester. You can finish an exam in one semester and it can be excellent. Some people take longer, but usually not. Usually you do the exam in one semester because you study for the first couple of months of the semester. You write the exam at the very last couple of weeks of the semester, and then you do the oral, and then you're done. The thesis can really drag out. And it's not even it might not even be because the person isn't working on it all the time. You could be working on it. You might have an idea to go do a survey. For instance, I have a student he's doing survey research, or he already did it. He had this plan. I'm going to reach out to 20 agencies. I'm going to survey 100 people. He gets IRB approval from the research board, and he can go do it. But then maybe you don't get the responses. Maybe you get 10 people respond to this survey. And you're like, whoa, what are you going to do? You can't really analyze 10 responses and say anything meaningful in research, or say there's some other kind of data that you had planned to collect and then you just can't get it. what COVID happens, you can't do interviews. I mean, just anything can happen that can really slow down the process of a thesis, but an exam is there. You're like, here's a list of things I'm going to read. It's if you're a methodical person who likes reading and likes to geek out, you read that stuff, and then you're like, okay, I'm ready to write about it. And then you're going to write about it, and that's it. And so that's kind of, I mean, why so many more students do an exam. But, we definitely have faculty members, especially in, I would say in the comparative and IR, they tend to do more thesis closures. And I think the reason for that is probably because of, and actually maybe Hannah can speak to this, because are you planning on doing a thesis? Because you're doing research?
I thought I was, but I think I'm going to go with an exam.
Oh, well, okay. So I just convinced her to do the exam. Again, the exam, you're becoming an expert. Here's the problem with a thesis for some people. Sometimes people spend so much time working on finding their data and analyzing it that they don't actually go back and read all the research about the topic that's already been done, because it takes a long time to do that. And if you haven't read all the research about the topic that came before your thesis, you actually aren't really an expert on it. You're not. You might write a really good thesis. You might actually analyze data and like do stats and do something really cool, but you might actually not know, you may know only a couple things about that topic because you didn't have enough time to do an intensive masterclass reading on it. However, I do think there are some faculty members who oversee more master's theses because they have students that are just like, I want to do a case study about, Russian relationship with migrants or something. And, they have some kind of an idea that maybe they've taken a class with Dr. Crocker and Nizamudin, and they've gotten ideas based on that. And so that's why there's some faculty members that maybe do more thesis style closures than others. But it might be because of the types of topics where it just kind of like lends itself to that. But I do think, 90% of our students are doing the exam.